What kind of worthless junk did you give me? My mother screamed, as she struck me hard across the face in front of 30 guests holding champagne glasses on the night of her 50th birthday in our colonial house on a tree-lined street in Austin, Texas. The slap rang sharp and flat. My head snapped sideways, a champagne flute shattered on the patio stone, and the entire backyard froze in stunned silence. I ran out the front door with nothing but a backpack and a burning cheek. I didn't know it then, but that strike would be the last thing Linda Thompson ever did to me. Because by midnight, I would be sitting in the back of a black SUV, across from a woman who would say 5 words that would unravel 21 years of lies. Before I go on, if you've ever felt like you didn't belong in your own home, please take a second to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. My name is Madison. Though for most of my life I was forced to answer to Madison Thompson. I'm 21 now. Let me take you back to that Saturday morning. I set my alarm for 5 a.m. Linda's 50th birthday list waited on the kitchen counter scrub. The patio tiles arranged 32 chairs, 2 feet apart. Press the linen tablecloth, slice. Lemons perfectly. Wash every platter by hand, because the dishwasher leaves spots. The house had manicured lawns, tall oaks, a solid oak dining table I polished weekly. I saved 3 months for her gift, a handmade leather-bound journal, $89 from a boutique wrapped in plain craft paper. Linda came down at 10 in silk and pearls, inspected everything, moved a balloon cluster 6 inches and snapped, "They're uneven. Do them again." Guests arrived at noon. I carried trays, refilled glasses, stayed invisible. When someone asked why I wasn't eating, Linda smiled thinly. She likes to help. It's her way of showing gratitude. You know how it is with adopted ones. During gift opening, Linda sat like a queen. I stepped forward with the package. She tore it open, held up the journal, and shouted, "What kind of worthless junk did you give me?" Conversation died. I tried to explain. I saved for 3 months. She stood chair scraping and struck me. Open palm. My cheek burned. No one moved except Patricia Nolan, the neighbor who stood and said, "Linda, that was uncalled for." Linda told her to stay out of family business. I didn't return to the party. I packed in the basement storage room 2 shirts, jeans, toothbrush, charger, an envelope with a state seal I'd found last spring, and $340 in hidden tips. I walked through the living room. The party had resumed. Linda laughed with champagne. Robert pulled the curtain shut as I crossed the yard. No one called my name. Outside, October air stung my cheek like a second slap. Austin at 9 p.m. was quiet, streetlights far apart. I walked the tree-lined street, no plan, just away. Headlights slowed behind me. A black SUV stopped. The rear door opened. A woman stepped out, mid-40s, auburn hair, hazel green eyes like mine. 2 weeks before that birthday, I was still trying to make everything perfect to keep my adoptive mother happy. From the age of 8, I had been cooking every meal for the family, washing Lauren's and Robert's clothes, cleaning her room down to the last speck of dust, even walking 3 miles to the grocery store, because Linda never let me have a car or a driver's license. Everything fell on me from dawn until late at night, while Lauren just lounged on the sofa watching Netflix and calling for more juice or snacks. My room was in the basement next to the boiler, no window at all, just an old mattress Linda picked up from the curb when I was 9, and a wool blanket that always smelled damp and moldy, no matter how many times I washed it. Every night I fell asleep to the sound of water gurgling in the pipes and the boiler rattling, like it was reminding me this wasn't a home, it was only a place I was allowed to exist. One night I was scrubbing the kitchen floor at midnight, my hands shaking from exhaustion, knees aching after 12 hours on my feet, and I asked myself quietly why I kept trying to please them when they had never once acknowledged me as part of the family. I told myself that maybe if I did better they would change, but deep down, I knew it was just an illusion I created to survive. Then Linda called me into her office. She sat behind the mahogany desk and slid a 12-page document across with a blue signature tab. This is a voluntary agreement. She said it states that you are not financially or emotionally ready to live independently, and you choose to remain under my guardianship. Sign it. I skimmed through and immediately saw the key clause. The agreement authorized Linda to keep managing all state and federal benefits tied to my care even after I turned 21. I asked why I had to sign. Linda didn't raise her voice, just answered coldly. Because without this paper, you'll be on the street. You have no degree, no savings, not even identification. Sign it, consider it your birthday gift to me. For the first time in my life, I said no. I told her I needed more time to think. Linda didn't yell or hit me, she just stared with ice in her eyes, closed the folder slowly, and placed it back in the desk drawer, like she was locking away a loaded gun. She said nothing more, but I knew from that moment everything had shifted. She no longer saw me as the obedient adopted daughter. I had refused her for the first time, and she would never forgive that. From then on, the air in the house felt heavier. Linda spoke to me less, but every glance carried a silent warning. I kept doing the chores, kept quiet, kept trying, but that single refusal had cracked something open that I could never close again. I didn't realize then that in just 2 weeks, that crack would shatter everything wide open. That night after the strike, I ran without stopping along the tree-lined street in Austin. My cheek burned with every heartbeat. The October wind cut through my thin jacket and made the pain sharper, but I kept moving because stopping meant facing what I had just left behind. The neighborhood was pitch dark except for scattered streetlights, the silence broken only by my ragged breathing and the slap of sneakers on pavement. I clutched the backpack straps like a lifeline, legs aching after the first mile, lungs burning by the second. Yet I pushed forward with no destination, just away from the house, the laughter still echoing faintly behind me. The curtain Robert had pulled shut without a single word. 2 miles in, my knees threatened to give out, but the thought of turning back felt worse than collapse. Then headlights appeared in the distance and slowed. A black SUV eased to a stop 10 feet ahead. The rear door opened with a soft click. Every survival instinct screamed to bolt the other way, but exhaustion won. I was freezing, drained, and utterly done with fleeing from one nightmare only to run into another. A woman stepped out slowly, mid-40s, auburn hair, tied back neatly. Sharp features softened by the glow of the dome light, holding a slim leather portfolio like she had just come from a meeting. Her eyes locked on mine, hazel green, wide-set, identical to the ones I saw reflected every morning. She didn't rush forward or raise her arms. She simply stood there, calm and steady, and said in a quiet voice that carried across the empty street, "Hello, dear, I am your biological mother." The words landed like ice water. I staggered back one step and hit a mailbox post. "That's impossible," I whispered. "My biological parents didn't want me. That's what I was told my whole life." "You were told wrong," she answered softly, her voice cracking on the second word. She reached into her coat and pulled out a small, creased photograph, the edges worn from years of handling. A woman cradling a toddler. The woman had auburn hair and a slight left-leaning smile that mirrored mine when I wasn't forcing it. The toddler stared straight at the camera with those same hazel green eyes. "Her name was Catherine," she said. "She was your mother. She died in a car accident when you were 2 years old, and I have spent every day since searching for you." I stared at the photo, then at her, then back again, because the resemblance was undeniable. The mouth, the tilt of the head, the way the light caught her cheekbones. Looking at Catherine felt like finding a word I'd been searching for my entire life. Behind her, a man waited by the driver's door. Tall, lean, mid-40s, dark coat, silent but watchful. The woman, Jennifer, kept her distance, respectful yet firm. "My name is Jennifer Hayes," she continued. "I'm not here to take you anywhere you don't want to go. We've been following your situation through legal channels for months. Tonight, when our team saw you leave the house, we made the decision to approach." "You were watching the house?" I asked, voice shaking. She nodded once. "The birthday party had many guests. It was the safest opportunity to confirm your identity visually. We also saw you run. I touched my cheek instinctively. The bruise throbbed under my fingers. Jennifer's gaze followed the movement, and something in her expression broke quietly. We sat in the back seat of the SUV, Jennifer on one side, me on the other. The heater humming low, the first real warmth I'd felt since the slap. The man, Matthew, drove slowly through the empty streets. Jennifer spoke carefully, like someone reciting a story rehearsed thousands of times yet still too painful to tell. Catherine died instantly on the highway. A delivery truck crossed the median. I was in the passenger seat, shattered ribs, collapsed lung, 4 months in intensive care. You were with a neighbor. While I was unconscious, Child Protective Services placed you in emergency foster care. When I recovered and tried to reclaim you, they presented a signed relinquishment form, my signature supposedly terminating my rights permanently. The court approved the adoption. I never signed anything, Jennifer said. I was on a ventilator. I couldn't hold a pen, let alone read legal documents, but the court had paper with my name, and that was enough. By the time my lawyers challenged it, the file was sealed. I hired investigators year after year. I would have spent everything to find you. She paused and met my eyes. I never stopped. I gripped the backpack tighter, the envelope inside pressing against my knuckles. I pulled it out and handed it to her without a word. She unfolded it under the dome light. Her face changed, subtle but unmistakable, like a card player seeing the winning hand. "This is the adoption subsidy record," she said. "The state of Texas has been paying Linda and Robert Thompson approximately $810 per month for your care for 21 years. That's roughly $180,000. How much of that money did you ever see?" I thought of the curbside mattress, the moldy blanket, the windowless basement room. "None," I answered. Jennifer turned her face to the window. In the glass reflection, I saw her jaw clench hard. "All those years," she whispered, "they treated you like a burden. But you weren't a burden. You were their paycheck." The SUV continued through the dark. I held the photograph of Catherine, feeling something deep inside crack open, not shatter, but open slowly like a door long rusted shut. I had no idea what came next, but I knew one thing for certain: I could never go back to that house. I never expected that just a few hours later, everything would change completely. At the Clean Hotel in downtown Austin, for the first time, I had a room with a window. The curtains were thick white linen, and when I drew them back, the city lights glowed soft and steady through the glass. No boiler rumble, no damp smell, just quiet and open space. Jennifer had checked us in under her name, separate rooms, with an adjoining door, and gave me time alone to breathe. I stood in the center of the carpet, not sure what to do with the sudden stillness. The bed had crisp white sheets that smelled like fresh detergent instead of mildew. I cracked the window and let the cool night air touch my face, the bruise still tender, but no longer on fire. Sitting on the mattress edge, I started talking, words tumbling out because I had never told the full story to anyone. For 21 years, I owned nothing with my name on it: no birth certificate, no social security card, no state ID. Linda kept every document locked in her office safe and said I didn't need them since I had nowhere to go. After 14, I stopped seeing doctors. No checkups, no dentist, no vaccinations. Because Linda said medical bills were too high, and I looked healthy enough. Isolation was total. No friends invited over, no sleepovers, no clubs, no part-time job that required paperwork. I walked to the coffee shop, came home, cooked dinner, cleaned up, retreated to the basement. Lauren got a new car at 16, regular salon appointments, a credit card with no ceiling. I got a bus pass that expired after 30 days because nobody bothered to renew it. The control wasn't random, it was calculated to keep me dependent, invisible, unable to leave or prove who I was. I reached into my backpack and pulled out the envelope I had carried for months. Manila, official-looking Texas Department of Family and Protective Services seal. I had found it last spring when Linda cleared the basement for Lauren's yoga studio and tossed my things into a trash bag. I sorted through the bag before pickup because I learned early that nothing I owned was safe. Under report cards and baby clothes was this envelope. Inside one page, Title 4E, Adoption Assistance Monthly Disbursement Summary. Across the top, in plain font, Madison Thompson. Columns showed $810 per month for 252 months, roughly $180,000. Jennifer took the page, unfolded it under the desk lamp. Her expression shifted, subtle but sharp, like a card player seeing the final hand turn in her favor. "This is the subsidy record," she said quietly. "The state paid Linda and Robert Thompson to provide for your welfare, housing, medical, clothing, education. None of that reached you. This is clear evidence of misuse." I felt my throat tighten. Images flashed: the curbside mattress, the moldy blanket, the endless chores, while Lauren got everything without lifting a finger. I excused myself and went into the bathroom. The door clicked shut. I turned on the faucet to mask the sound, sat on the cold tile, and let the tears come hard and fast. I cried for the girl who had scrubbed floors at midnight, saved every dollar in a shoebox, believed she was worthless, because that's what they drilled into her. I whispered to the empty room. Was I just money to them? Did they keep me for the check and not for love? The sobs shook me until my chest ached and there was nothing left to give. When I came out, Jennifer was sitting on the bed's edge, not crowding, just waiting. She spoke gently. "This document proves they took state money meant for your care and used it for themselves. The subsidy exists to protect children in adoption placements. What happened to you is fraud, and we can prove it in court." I wiped my eyes and nodded. For the first time, shame gave way to something sharper: proof instead of doubt. Jennifer didn't push for more. She simply said, "When you're ready, there's someone else who wants to meet you. My brother, your uncle." I held the photo of Catherine tighter. Trust still felt fragile, but for the first time I believed I might deserve more than survival. But I still wasn't ready to trust completely until I met her brother. 3 days later, I met Matthew Hayes, Jennifer's brother, and my biological uncle. He walked into the hotel conference room Jennifer had booked for the morning, carrying a thick file folder and 2 coffees from the lobby. Tall, lean, mid-40s, dark coat, still buttoned from the drive. He looked like a man who had spent decades in courtrooms, yet still carried a quiet undercurrent of worry in his eyes. He set the coffees down, shook my hand with a firm but gentle grip, and said simply, "I'm Matthew. I've been helping Jennifer search for you since the day she woke up in that hospital bed. No theatrics, no tears, just steady, calm presence." He sat across from me, opened the folder, and began with the relinquishment form, dated October 2005. The document supposedly signed by Jennifer, terminating all parental rights. He placed a photocopy in front of me, then laid a second sheet beside it, a 46-page certified forensic report from a Dallas handwriting expert. "The signature is not Jennifer's," he said, pointing to the side-by-side comparisons. "Pen pressure, inconsistent letter formation, mismatched stroke order, irregular." The expert concluded with high scientific certainty that another hand produced the signature. I stared at the 2 versions, one deliberate and forward-leaning, the other forced and shaky. Matthew moved on without pause. "We obtained bank records through a family court subpoena. On October 14, 2005, 6 days before your adoption was finalized, $5,000 was wired from Linda Thompson's personal checking account directly to Leonard Grubb, the social worker assigned to your case. Not routed through any department or charity, straight to his personal account. Grubb managed the emergency placement, presented the forged relinquishment, and recommended the adoption to the judge. The dates line up perfectly." I felt my stomach drop. $5,000. That was the cost of my identity, my mother, my right to be found. Matthew didn't rush me. He let the facts settle heavy and undeniable on the table between us. Next, he slid the DNA report across the polished wood. The accredited lab in Austin documented chain of custody at every step. The probability of maternity between Jennifer Hayes and Madison Thompson is 99.998%. He tapped the final line. The science confirms it. You're her daughter. I held the page, my fingers unsteady. 21 years of being told I was unwanted erased in black and white by numbers that didn't lie. A warmth started in my chest, slow at first, then spreading like sunlight breaking through clouds after a long storm. Matthew leaned forward slightly. Jennifer never gave up. She sold her house downsized, kept investigators on retainer, filed motion after motion. I spent my whole life believing no one wanted me, and here was proof someone had fought every day to prove the opposite. The feeling was sharp, almost painful, like skin waking up after years in the dark. I looked at Matthew and asked the question that had been burning since the SUV door opened. What happens next? He answered without hesitation. We build the case. Forged signature bribe, misused subsidy. These are clear grounds to void the adoption under Texas law. Fraud in procurement renders it void from the beginning. We have the documents, the forensics, the financial trail, and most importantly, we have you. Your account of the isolation, the lack of medical care, the basement room, the constant labor will carry significant weight with the judge. I nodded slowly. The warmth grew steadier, more solid. For the first time, I felt seen not as a paycheck or a problem, but as someone worth searching for, worth proving, worth fighting for. Matthew closed the folder. This is your decision every step of the way. Jennifer and I are here, no expectations, no pressure, just family trying to make things right after too many years lost. I sat there holding the DNA report, the pages slightly creased from my grip. Trust didn't flood in all at once, but it began that morning in small, quiet steps forward. But then a letter from Linda arrived that almost made me turn back. 1 week later, a letter from Linda arrived at the hotel front desk, addressed to Madison Thompson, not Emily Carter, because she refused to acknowledge any other name. The envelope was thick cream stationery embossed with the Thompson Insurance Agency logo. Inside, a single handwritten page and an old photograph, me at 3 years old, perched on Linda's lap in the living room wearing a pink dress I had no memory of owning. We both smiled in the picture, the kind of staged smile families capture for holiday cards. The letter read, Madison. I don't know who this woman is or what lies she's feeding you, but she is not your mother. She is a stranger taking advantage of a confused young woman. We are your family. We have been your family for 21 years. Come home. We can fix this. I forgive you for leaving. The word forgive landed like a fresh slap. First it dangled hope, then it snapped shut like a trap, then it tightened around my wrist like a cuff I had worn too long. Linda forgiving me for escaping after she struck me, after decades of control. I stood in front of the hotel room mirror letter, shaking in my grip. My reflection looked fragile, eyes shadowed from sleepless nights, shoulders curved from years of shrinking to fit their expectations. The old conditioning roared back, the fear of empty streets, the terror of having nothing, the voice whispering that maybe she was right, maybe this was all a deception, and the cul-de-sac house was the only place I knew the rules even if they were cruel. My fingers closed on the doorknob. I almost turned it. Almost walked down the hallway, almost pressed the elevator button, almost returned to the familiar cage where obedience bought survival. Tears stung hot and fast. I stood frozen, heart hammering with the pull of 21 years of trained submission. Then I looked at the photograph again, the forced smiles, the artificial moment and clarity cut through the fog. I ripped the letter in half, then into quarters, then into confetti until forgive and family scattered across the carpet like remnants of a performance I no longer believed in. No more tears came. I just breathed deep and even. The decision locked into place. I was done. No going back. Not ever. Jennifer arrived an hour later with Sarah Mitchell, the family law attorney she had retained. Sarah was early 40s, tailored black suit, dark hair in a low knot, sharp mind softened by calm eyes. She spread documents across the small conference table, 5 precise stacks, each flagged with colored tabs. Stack 1, DNA results chain of custody, 99.998% maternity probability. Stack 2 forensic handwriting analysis 46 pages, boiled down to one line, the signature is not Jennifer's. Stack 3 bank records $5,000 wire from Linda to Leonard Grubb 6 days before finalization. Stack 4, Title 4, E-Disbursement Summary. $180,000 over 21 years with social worker Derek Simmons's report confirming neglect and misuse. Stack 5 sworn declaration from Patricia Nolan, the neighbor who saw the strike and years of unequal treatment firsthand. Sarah spoke evenly. This file is airtight. Texas law allows adoption to be voided ab initio when procured through fraud, including forgery and bribery. We file the petition next week. I listened, feeling fear give way to focus. Later that afternoon, Jennifer took me to a quiet boutique downtown. Not for luxury, but because she said, "You should walk into that courtroom as exactly who you are, someone who deserves to be seen." I tried on a navy blazer, white silk blouse, charcoal slacks. In the fitting room mirror, I saw straight shoulders, steady eyes, a woman who belonged at the plaintiff's table not carrying trays. When I stepped out, Jennifer's gaze softened. Catherine used to pause in mirrors like that, deciding whether to trust the reflection. I hadn't smiled yet, but I felt the shift. I paid with my saved tips the first clothes no one had worn before me. I wore them back to the hotel, feeling taller than ever. I never expected the courtroom would bring their entire world crashing down. That morning at the Austin courthouse, I walked in with my back straight. The old federal brick building carried the faint smell of floor wax and radiator heat, hallway floors echoing every footfall, like the structure itself demanded attention. Jennifer stayed close on my left, Sarah Mitchell on my right, Matthew trailing a few steps behind with the banker's box of records. I wore the navy blazer, white silk blouse, charcoal slacks, hair in a low knot, no jewelry, just calm hands and eyes that refused to lower. Linda entered at 8:40, gray suit, burgundy tie, arm hooked through Robert's Lauren, following in jeans and a sweater too relaxed for the setting. Their lawyer gripped one slim folder. Linda lifted her chin like this was routine. She would dismiss in minutes. Then her eyes found me. The posture, the tailored clothes, the girl who no longer looked down, and her composure flickered. She scanned Jennifer, then Sarah, then the banker's box, and the atmosphere tightened. The clerk opened the courtroom doors and announced the case in the matter of the adoption of the minor, formerly known as Emily Carter, now styled Madison Thompson. We passed through the same doorway into opposing worlds. Sarah positioned herself at the plaintiff's table, tall, precise, light, glancing off her like a blade. "Your Honor," she opened without notes, "we are here to prove the adoption of Emily Carter, styled Madison Thompson, was secured through fraud, specifically forgery of the biological mother's consent, enabled by a direct bribe to the assigned social worker." She submitted the DNA affidavit, first chain of custody, pristine 99.998% maternity probability. The judge studied the report, shifted her glasses, and gave a small nod. Sarah advanced to the forensic handwriting report. 46 pages summarized in one decisive line, the signature on the relinquishment form is not Jennifer Hayes's. Linda's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my client possesses a legally executed decree ratified by this court more than 2 decades ago. The petitioner is attempting to reopen settled law with expert opinion." Sarah remained facing forward. "A decree resting on forgery is not settled. It is suppressed. We are here to bring it to light." Patricia Nolan took the stand in a navy cardigan, sensible flats, voice clear and unwavering. "I've lived next door for 12 years. I watched Madison wash their cars, mow the lawn, hang laundry in the yard, while Lauren reclined on a lounge chair, soaking up sun. I never saw Madison join the dinner table when guests were present. On Linda's 50th birthday, I witnessed her strike Madison across the face in front of 30 people because of a gift she considered inadequate." The courtroom fell into a heavy hush, the silence that follows when long-held assumptions fracture. Sarah addressed Linda directly. "Mrs. Thompson, do you know Leonard Grubb?" Linda's jaw clenched. "I might have met him at a church event. I don't remember every person." Sarah displayed the bank record, October 14, 2005, $5,000 wire from your personal checking to Leonard Grubb's personal account. How do you explain this transfer? Linda's face darkened to deep red. It was a donation for community work. Sarah's tone remained level. Sent directly to his personal account, not the department, not any nonprofit. Linda darted a look at her lawyer, who studied the table surface as though an escape might appear there. No objection was raised. I gave that girl everything, Linda declared, voice climbing sharp and brittle. 21 years, a roof food, and this is the gratitude I get. Some outsider shows up, and I'm suddenly the monster. The judge's voice sliced through low and absolute. Mrs. Thompson, sit down. She sat, but the facade had split entitlement pouring out unchecked. Then Linda rose uncalled from the respondent's bench. She smoothed her suit-front voice, quivering like a taut string near breaking. Your Honor, I have to speak. Robert clutched her wrist. Linda, sit. She jerked free the first time I'd ever seen her pull away. I wrote the check, she said, mascara already trailing, but this was raw, unpolished, not rehearsed. $5,000 to Leonard Grubb. Linda told me it was to speed things up. I knew what it meant. I knew. Robert flushed crimson from collar to hairline. She's lying. She's disoriented. She's protecting herself. Linda's voice splintered high and frantic. I'm protecting myself because I've shielded you for 21 years and I can't keep doing it. I watched you strike that girl. I watched you use her like unpaid help, and I stayed quiet because I was terrified of you, Linda. Terrified of this moment right now. The room became so still I could hear the overhead fluorescents buzz. Lauren sat frozen in the gallery, initially smirking as Sarah outlined the evidence, but as Linda confessed, the smirk dissolved into shock, then panic, then tears. She whispered, Mom, no, please don't, and stretched a hand toward Linda, like a child seeing her entire world collapse in real time. The betrayal carved itself plainly across her features, not mere surprise, but the abrupt realization that the privilege she had accepted without question rested on deception she had never examined. The judge permitted Linda to conclude. One more disruption, Mrs. Thompson and I will hold you in contempt. Linda sank back trembling. Sarah turned to me. The petitioner's daughter requests to address the court if allowed. The judge nodded. You may proceed. I rose, navy blazer, white blouse, hands composed at my sides. I looked directly at the judge, not Linda, because this moment belonged to the truth, not to her. Your Honor. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here because for 21 years, I didn't know my real name or my mother's face. I didn't know anyone was searching for me. I didn't know the documents that placed me in that house were forged and bought. Linda claimed she gave me everything. Here's what everything looked like: a basement storage room without a window, a mattress pulled from the curb. No doctor visits after 14. No identification, no birth certificate. I didn't know my own social security number until 3 weeks ago. I worked from 8 years old, cooking, cleaning, laundry, told every single day to be grateful, because without them, I was worthless. She struck me at her birthday because I gave her a journal I saved 3 months to buy. But she struck me because I refused, for the first time in my life, to sign away my independence so she could continue collecting. I was never a daughter to her. I was a line item on a balance sheet. I'm not asking this court to punish Linda Thompson. I'm asking it to tell the truth because I deserve it, and every child caught in the system deserves it. I sat down. The silence lingered heavy and unbroken. Patricia Nolan cried quietly, the authentic kind. Sarah paused, then faced the judge. Your Honor, the evidence is irrefutable. The relinquishment is forged. The biological mother never consented. The adoption was enabled by bribery. The court should declare it void ab initio, order full restitution of $180,000, and refer the matter to the district attorney for criminal prosecution, including forgery, fraud, and child neglect. The judge examined the final documents for 12 minutes. 12 minutes I tracked on the wall clock secondhand. When she lifted her gaze, she addressed me first. Ms. Carter and I use that name now because the evidence compels it. The court has reviewed the DNA, the forensics, the financial records, the witness testimony, and Mrs. Thompson's voluntary admission. The adoption is declared void ab initio. Restitution of all. Title 4E funds totaling $180,000 to the state and referral to the district attorney for investigation of forgery, fraud, and neglect. Court is adjourned. The gavel struck the sound sharper than any blow, louder than 21 years of enforced silence. It rang like a lock finally shattering open. When the judge's gavel came down, everything ended. The sound cut through the courtroom sharper than any strike, louder than 21 years of silence. It was the sound of a lock shattering open after being forced shut for too long. The judge removed her glasses, looked directly at me, and spoke with calm finality. Ms. Carter and I use that name now because the evidence compels it. The court has examined the DNA results, the forensic handwriting analysis, the financial records, the testimony of Patricia Nolan and Mrs. Thompson's voluntary admission on the record. The relinquishment of parental rights dated October 2005 bears a forged signature. Jennifer Hayes never consented. The adoption was procured through fraud, including bribery of a public official. The adoption is declared void ab initio, effective immediately. The court orders full restitution of all Title 4E adoption assistance funds, totaling $180,000 payable to the state of Texas. The matter is referred to the Travis County District Attorney for criminal investigation, including forgery, fraud, in connection with public assistance and child neglect. Court is adjourned. The gavel struck once more, absolute and irreversible. Linda sat motionless, face ashen. Robert gripped the table edge, knuckles white. Lauren stared from the gallery, eyes wide as if the words hadn't yet sunk in. The church women in the back rows gathered their purses hurriedly, avoiding each other's gazes. The courthouse reporter closed his notebook, looked at me with quiet respect, and left. In the hallway outside, the air felt lighter, cleaner, like the building had finally exhaled after holding its breath for decades. Jennifer touched my arm gently. Matthew held the door open. I walked out between them without turning back. Linda stood at the bottom of the courthouse steps, jacket unbuttoned, tie loosened, looking smaller than I had ever seen her. Robert waited by their car engine, running Linda. No, she was Linda now, forehead pressed against the steering wheel. As I passed, she called my old name one final time. Madison. I stopped, turned. She looked at me the way she always had, like I was property, whose value she could never quite determine. But now fear flickered beneath the surface, fear she would never voice. After everything we did for you, she said. After 21 years, this is how you repay us. The words landed heavy, carrying the same old entitlement that had kept me small for so long. I stood on the steps. October sunlight warm on my shoulders, navy blazer, crisp. For the first time, the full weight settled. Not rage, just clear recognition. Even now, with the judge's ruling still ringing with forensic proof of forgery and bribery, Linda Thompson believed she was owed something. My name is Emily Carter, I said. And you didn't do anything for me. You did everything to me. Now it's over. I turned, walked down the remaining steps. Jennifer held the SUV door open. Matthew waited inside. I got in, the door closed, and through the tinted window, I watched Linda stand alone on the courthouse steps, jacket hanging open, watching what she called her investment drive away forever. 6 months later, that's where the story stands. I live in a small apartment in Austin, near Jennifer and Matthew, tall windows that flood the room with morning light every day. I stand by them sometimes before starting my routine, just watching the sky, because I spent 21 years in a room without one. I'm studying for my GED, enrolled in the culinary program at Austin Community College. The irony isn't lost on me. Linda forced me to cook every meal for 2 decades. Now I'm choosing it for myself. But choice transforms everything. The same ingredients carry completely different meaning. Jennifer and Matthew invite me for dinner every Sunday. Matthew grills salmon, sometimes a little overdone. Jennifer makes garlic bread that always browns at the edges. But they set the table for three. Ask about my week. Listen to every answer. We're not perfect. There are silences, awkward pauses, because you can't reclaim 21 lost years over one meal. But they show up every Sunday without fail. No expectations, no conditions, just steady presence. Steady. Linda and Robert sold the colonial house on the cul-de-sac to cover the restitution payment. The market was soft, they took a loss, but paid every dollar. Linda lost her position at the insurance agency. Robert's standing in the community unraveled. Church friends distanced themselves quietly. Both received 3 years probation, 200 hours of community service. Linda at a local food bank, Robert at a youth shelter. They live in a rented apartment now, smaller, quieter, stripped of the manicured lawn. The oak dining table, the illusion of control. Lauren moved in with an aunt in Round Rock, got her first job at a retail chain, folding clothes, stocking shelves, running a cash register. The credit card declined. The car repossessed, the queen bed and salon appointments replaced by minimum wage bus rides and learning to budget. She has to pay her own bills now, figure out rent, groceries, laundry on her own. For the first time, she experiences what it means to stand without a safety net. I haven't spoken to any of them since the courthouse steps. No calls, no messages, no contact, no forgiveness, no reconciliation. The door is closed, locked, and I hold the only key. I go to therapy every Thursday, a small office with plants and a therapist who doesn't dictate how I should feel, just asks questions and lets me discover my own answers. Some mornings I still wake at 5 a.m., heart racing, already mentally listing chores that no longer exist. Then I open the curtains, see the sky, and remember I am here now. Healing isn't instant. Some days the old conditioning creeps back, the voice that says I should be grateful for scraps. But then I look at the photo of Catherine on my nightstand, the one Jennifer gave me, and I remember I was wanted, searched for, fought for. That changes everything. After everything that happened, I realized something essential. So many people have sat in dark rooms wondering if they were worthy of real love. If you've ever felt that, or ever had to walk away from a family that only taught you to stay silent and endure, I want you to know you're not alone. And if you want, share a little of your own journey in the comments below. I read every single one because those stories remind me we're not the only ones who made it out. Thank you all for taking the time to watch the video. If you found this story meaningful, don't forget to like, leave a comment, sharing your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any upcoming videos.